Welcome to episode 3. I think the series I'm about to do is going to be about Agenda 21, Event 201, and probably Agenda 2030. These are all different. They're different topics, but merged into the same thing. There's going to be a series. I'm not sure how many episodes it's going to be. Probably 3. I don't know. But, I hope you're ready. Let's focus. Yeah. This is a very, very interesting topic to me. I learned about it very recently. And I think if you're interested in just what's going on with coronavirus, I think this will just unlock something. Or it will not unlock something, but it will make you see what's going on in a different lens, I guess. So this is straight from the Center of Health Security.org. So it's Event 201, a global pandemic exercise. You can just Google www.centerforhealthsecurity.org, Event 201, or .org/Event 201. You can find this on your own on Google, or I don't know if it's on Google. I'm on DuckDuckGo right now because this stuff is sometimes kind of hard to find. But all right, so let's get started. What is Event 201? This is going to be episode 1 of talking about Event 201. So Event 201 was, I'm going to be reading this article and then just breaking it down and explaining why I think. This is going to be, I think pretty interesting if you're into this topic. It may be boring for some of you, but if it's boring for some of you, well, I'm sorry. You can go watch my other episodes. I'll have a funner topic very soon. Very kooky, crazy, something on Friday called Funky Friday. But anyways, so let me get my reading voice. So about Event 201. Event 201 was a 3.5-hour pandemic tabletop exercise that simulated a series of dramatic, scenario-based, facilitated discussions confronting difficult, true-to-life dilemmas associated with the response to a hypothetical but scientifically plausible pandemic. 15 global businesses, government, and public health leaders were players in the simulation exercise that highlighted unresolved real-world policy and economic issues that could be solved with sufficient political will, financial investment, and attention now and in the future. So, this, I'm not sure if it talks about it, but this was done in October. This was ran as a simulation in October of 2019. Okay, 2 years ago, October of 2019. So this was before we had all this corona stuff. So I'm going to read everything. Like, I'm going in depth. I'm not sure how long this episode will be. Probably around 30 minutes. And then episode 2, part 2, will probably be another 30 minutes. So this exercise consisted of pre-recorded news broadcasts, live staff briefings, and moderated discussions on scientific topics. These issues were carefully designed in a compelling narrative that educated the participants of the audience. So this was done by Johns Hopkins University. The Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, World Economic Forum, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation jointly proposed these recommendations. So, first of all, these stand out. Johns Hopkins, which is a super progressive, medical university. The World Economic Forum, which we talked about before, which they want to enact a crazy agenda called the Great Reset. So you can watch that. That is episode 1, actually. The Davos. And Bill and Melinda Gates. Bill Gates mainly. Melinda. I don't like Melinda. I don't like Melinda. She seems not very genuine to me because the way that she just now decided, hey, Bill Gates, I don't like Bill Gates. He kind of went off with Jeffrey Epstein a lot. I don't like that. I think I'm going to divorce him now after 20-something years of being married to him, after he was already the 7th richest man on earth when she got married to him. So, and now she wants to own some of his money, like 40% of it. She doesn't deserve that. She already married him rich. She deserves absolutely nothing. She's Yeah, I don't like her. She seems like a very ingenuine person and just taking advantage of the situation to get money. But anyways, so John Hopkins, the WEF, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the purpose. In recent years, the world has seen a growing number of epidemic events, accounting approximately 200 events annually. These events are, note that they say epidemic, not pandemic. Epidemic is only when it's in one single location. Pandemic is when it stretches across the whole world or travels from one country to the other. When it crosses borders, that's a pandemic. So these events are increasing and they are disruptive to health, economies, and society. Managing these events already strains global capacity, even absent a pandemic threat. Experts agree that it is only a matter of time before one of these epidemics becomes global. A pandemic with potential catastrophic consequences, a severe pandemic which becomes Event 201, would require reliable cooperation among several industries, national governments, and key international institutions. Okay, there's something I want to dive deep in there, but I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to read some more. So, recent economic studies show how the pandemic will be caused by an average annual income loss of 0.7% of global GDP, or $570 billion. The players responsible for the scenario illuminated the need for cooperation among industry, national governments, key international institutions, and civil society to avoid the catastrophic consequences that could arise from a larger scale pandemic. I'm going to skip through a little bit, and I'm going to go to the scenario. So I'm going to read, so it says detail about the scenario here. So I'm going to read a little bit about the scenario. So the Event 201 scenario. Event 201 simulates an outbreak of a novel zoonotic coronavirus. 2019, October of 2019. Transmitted from bats to pigs to people that eventually become efficiently transmissible from person to person, leading a severe pandemic. The pathogen and disease caused by the model largely on SARS, but it is more transmissible in the community, settling by people with mild symptoms. By people with mild symptoms. Forgive my crappy reading. I'm not the best reader. I'm trying my best right here. The disease starts in pig farms in Brazil, quietly and slowly at first, but then it starts to spread more rapidly in healthcare settings. When it starts to spread efficiently from person to person in a low-income, densely packed neighborhoods of some of the megacities in South America, the pandemic explodes. It is first exported by air travel to Portugal, the United States, and China, and then many other countries. Although at first some countries are able to control it, it continues to spread and to be reintroduced, and eventually no country can maintain control. That sounds a lot like what happened in 2020, at the beginning of 2020 with China. Switch out the pig for a bat, and we pretty much got that. If you believe that it was a bat. I mean, it is a bat. But if you believe in the lab leak hypothesis, which is slowly not becoming a conspiracy theory, even the mainstream media is accepting, like, hey, this is not, or the former CDC director said that, yeah, this probably happened. And now I think the CDC director under Biden said, this is no longer a conspiracy theory. This is a case. And then Fauci talking about, so Fauci's a huge proponent of gain of function. His whole career is based on gain of function. And gain of function research is when you find these diseases or find these coronaviruses, right? When you find these coronaviruses in the wild, and then you say, hey, we're going to study them because we are scared that this is going to evolve into a global pandemic or into an epidemic, right? And so they isolate these, and then they test them, and they improve them, and they make them stronger to see how much they can handle. And so the theory is, anyway, before that, a couple days ago, Rand Paul was grilling Fauci, and you can look it up on YouTube. Just Rand Paul Rand Paul questioning Fauci, and you can see how just Fauci, what he's doing is very, very insincere. He is saying, we never funded gain of function research. It's not gain of function research what they were doing in Wuhan. So he was using a semantic argument because Obama had banned gain of function research, and somehow he turned it back on, or he turned on the funding for the Wuhan lab under the Trump administration, because that was a complete mess. You can listen to this on the Joe Rogan episode with, I forgot what his name was, but he talks about it, and it's super interesting the way that this man, let me find it right now, that this man breaks it all down and just exposes Fauci for what he is. And I trust this because he's done the research. Let's see. Let's see. I think it is not Dave Smith, not Josh Rogan. Well, anyways, I'll find it. I'll find it later. But continuing on, it just exposes the Fauci is exposed as not being genuine, lying about everything. A couple days ago, I think it was yesterday. A couple days ago, I'm gonna say a couple days ago, just in case this recording is recorded on a later date. A couple days ago, he said that he was wearing his masks just for show. That his mask was ineffective, and we've known this, or at least if you look on something other than mainstream media, you see that masks aren't quite effective once you get the vaccine. And then they've just been just it's just been very, the media is finally talking about it, and finally just it's just wild what's going on. So the episode of that I was talking about, Joe Rogan, it is episode 1640 with Josh Rogan. So you can listen to it. You can just Google on YouTube, Josh Rogan on Anthony Fauci's influence. And so, anyways, back to Event 201. The disease, there's no possibility of vaccine being available in the first year. What happened this time? Well, we had Trump, and he thankfully made Operation Warp Speed, which I don't completely agree with, because I've been reading a little bit about the vaccine. I'm not anti-vax. I got pretty much all the vaccines except the coronavirus vaccine. I don't know if I'm going to get it. I don't think I need it, because I'm young and healthy. I'd rather play out the long game and then just wait for to see what the long-term effects are, because I don't want to inject something with less than 6 months of trial into my body. I don't think that's very wise of me. But anyways, they say there's a fictional antiviral drug that can help the sick but not significantly limit the spread of the disease. That sounds like hydroxychloroquine, which Trump proposed, but then the media was like, oh no, that's experimental, we don't know what that is, and they freaked out about it. But so since the whole human population is susceptible during the initial months of the pandemic, the cumulative number of cases increases exponentially, doubling every week. As the cases and deaths accumulate, the economy and societal consequences become increasingly severe. The scenario ends at an 18-month point with 65 million deaths. We haven't even reached, I think we've reached 2 million or less than, we cracked 1 million, which is awful, but 65 million. The pandemic is beginning to slow due to the increasing number of susceptible people. The pandemic will continue on at some rate until there is an effective vaccine, or until 80 or 90% of the global population has been exposed from that point on. So that's the scenario. Then the recommendations. The next severe pandemic will not only cause great illness and loss of life, but could also trigger major cascading economic and societal consequences that can contribute greatly to global impact and suffering. Event 201 pandemic exercise conducted on October 18, 2019 vividly demonstrate the number of these important gaps in pandemic preparedness, as well as some of the elements of the solutions between public and private sectors that will be needed to fill them. The Johns Hopkins World Economic Forum and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation jointly propose these recommendations. All right, let's read the recommendations. I'm going to skip through a little bit of them. There's 7 recommendations. And I'm going to preface this by giving a quick summary of what they all are. They basically want corporate fascism. They want a merger between private government or private business, major multinational corporate conglomerates to merge with governments so that they can solve these issues. They don't want to, it's not about, they say public sector. It's not about the public sector. The public sector, or they want the public and private sector. It's not about the private sector. The private sector is small business. Your coffee shop, that's part of the private sector. That's a private business. They don't want those. They don't want small businesses. They want massive, like, here they say, okay, let me get into it. This says, here are the following proposals. Number 1, governments, international organizations, and businesses should plan now for how essential corporate capabilities will be utilized during a large-scale pandemic. During the severe pandemic, public sector's efforts to control the outbreak are likely to become overwhelmed, but industry assets, it swiftly and appropriately deployed, could help save lives and reduce economic loss. For instance, companies with operations focused on logistics, social media, and distribution systems will be needed to enable government's emergency response, risk communications, and medical countermeasure distribution efforts during a pandemic. So they're saying they want companies with operation focused on logistics, social media, and distribution systems to push the government's agenda. Basically, that's what they're saying. They're saying they want these big businesses, big business, big tech, big pharma, to push the agenda that they want, to push vaccination in this case, to push experimental gene therapy, as admitted by a chief head of the Moderna, that it is gene therapy, and it's untested, skipped animal trials, because that takes like 10 years. Animal trials takes like 10 years. But yes, so they want government and private business, private corporation to merge to be able to push this agenda to stop the pandemic, quote unquote. Contingency planning for a potential operational partnership between government and business will be complex, with many legal and organizational details to be addressed. Government should work now to identify the most critical areas that need and reach out to industry players with global financing agreements with advance in the next large pandemic. The Global Preparedness Monitoring Board would be positioned to help monitor and contribute the efforts of government, international organizations, and businesses should take the pandemic preparedness response. That they're saying, hey, we should practice, or we should fix the issues that make it so that government and private corporations cannot merge. That's what they're saying right here. We need to find a way to make it quicker so that they can merge quickly. So it doesn't take time and we can do it pretty much instantly. Or not instantly, but very quickly, that we can push the merger between private business and government. Number 2, industry, national governments, and international organizations should work together to enhance internationally held stockpiles of medical countermeasures to enable rapid and equitable distribution during a severe pandemic. The WHO currently has an influenza vaccines viral stockpile, with contracts into place with pharmaceutical companies that have agreed to supply vaccines should the WHO request them. As one possible approach, this virtual stockpile model could be expanded to augment WHO's ability to distribute vaccines and therapeutics to countries at the greatest need during the severe pandemic. They should also include any available experimental vaccine stockpiles for any WHO R&D blueprint pathogens to develop in a clinical trial during the outbreaks. I lost myself. Yeah, during the outbreaks in collaboration with the CEPI, GAVI, and WHO. Other approaches should involve regional stockpiles or bi- or multinational agreements. During a catastrophic outbreak, countries may be reluctant to part with scarce medical resources. A robust international stockpile would therefore help to ensure a low and middle resource setting receive needing supplies regardless of whether they provide such supplies domestically. Countries with national supplies or domestic manufacturing capability should commit to donating some supply product to this virtual stockpile. Countries should support this effort throughout the provision of additional funding. So what I understand there is that they want health organizations, international organizations, to hold the stockpile and to basically hold all the power in them, and then say like, hey, we'll give this to you. But that's my view, is humans are evil in nature. We want power. Humans are greedy. And when you have power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. So in this case, let's say the WHO has the vaccine. Do you think they're going to be giving it away willingly? No, that's not how it works. That's not how the world works. You think that these people will just give it out of generosity? No, they're going to have economic incentive or political incentive. And so that's my fear, is with the stripping away of each country's ability to have its own independence and its own freedom and its own just separation from the large world, that means that it has freedom to do what it pleases. If we're all under one wing and under one control, then we have to do exactly what they say, and there is no freedom. There is no ability to be diverse or to be just independent and to make your own decisions. And so with this, it seems like, oh, the WHO, if you don't conform with us, that's my view. If these countries, if for example, in this case, the WHO having all the vaccines, if let's say Mexico doesn't agree with all of our positions, then we're not going to give you the vaccine. So you have to, or you all will be eradicated by this disease. That's what I see happening. That's my view on the situation. So number 3. Countries, international organizations, and global transportation companies should work together to maintain travel and trade during severe pandemics. Travel and trade are essential to the global economy as well as to national and even local economies, as they should be maintained. I'm going to skip through this because, the fear of uncertainty, uncertainty experienced during past outbreaks, even those limited to a national or regional level, have sometimes led to unjustified border measures and closure of customers facing businesses, import bans, and cancellation of airline flights and international shipping. A particularly fast-moving and lethal pandemic could therefore result in political decisions to slow or stop movement from these people are good, potentially harming economies already vulnerable in the face of an outbreak. Minister of Health and other government agencies should work together now with international airlines and global shipping companies to develop realistic response scenarios and start a contingency planning process with a goal of mitigating economic damage by maintaining key travel and trade routes during the large-scale pandemic, supporting continuing trade and travel in such an extreme circumstance may require the provision of enhanced disease control measures and personal protective equipment. For transportation workers, government subsidies to support clinical trade routes and potential liability protection in certain cases. International organizations, including the WHO, the International Air Transport Association, and International Civil Association Organization, an International Civil Aviation Organization, should be partners in these preparedness and response efforts. So there's just saying another merge of big government and big business between travel that the government should control. And what stood out here is that it said, where was it? That these businesses or that these airline travels should have government subsidies to support critical trade routes and potential liability protection in certain cases. So let's say one of these people gets sick trading and they die. Well, you can't sue them because they're being protected. They have liability protection. That just seems sketchy. The merger of private business and government has always been sketchy to me. I never trust it. I don't trust the government. Why should I trust the government? Have they ever shown that I can trust them? No. They take control and they never give up. So once they start controlling trade routes and because that's what it is. The government starts controlling trade routes. They start controlling the economic transfer of, or the government starts controlling everything, all trade, all import and export. That just seems not, it already basically does. They already basically do. But we still have the freedom to move in and out. Governments should provide more resources. Number 4, governments should provide more resources and support for development and surge manufacturing of vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics that will be needed during a severe pandemic. First of all, I'm opposed to government providing more resources and support. Why? Because it should be part of the free market. The free market should decide, hey, we're going to do this vaccine and we're going to make it great. Because if we do, the people will use it and it'll be effective and people will buy it and spend money and we can make $1 trillion off of it. That's how the free market works. That's how it works. Or the free market will be like, hey, we're going to make this slightly effective, but you need like 99 doses of it to be effective. The free market is like that, like Amazon. Amazon is a great company. It's a great company. It provides incredible services. Why? Because it gets incredible money from it. But then a vaccine, if you can say, hey, or look at subscription services. You can either pay a fee or you can pay monthly, and you eventually pay more monthly. That's what I see happening here. And then these companies, if they get assistance from the government, I don't know. It's just that the idea of the government providing vaccines and then eventually, since the government is providing subsidies and resources, I don't know. I'll have to think about that more. An argument against that more. I'm learning. I'm reading this along with you guys. So everything that I'm learning, I'm telling you guys, or what I understand, or what I get from it, I'm telling you guys. So number 5, global business should recognize the economic burden of pandemics and fight for stronger preparedness. Okay? In addition to investing more in preparing their own companies for industries, business leaders and shareholders actively should engage with governments and advocate for increasing resources in pandemic preparedness. Globally, there has been a lack of attention and investment in preparedness for high-impact pandemics, and business is largely not involved in existing efforts. To a significant extent, this is due to a lack of awareness of the business risks proposed by pandemics. Tools should be built to help large private sector companies visualize business risk posed by infectious disease and pathways to mitigate risk through public-private cooperation to strengthen preparedness. There it is again, public and private. Public-private. Let's look up right now. I want to look up the definition of corporate fascism. Definition of corporate fascism. What is corporate fascism? Discover.hub pages. I'm on DuckDuckGo, by the way. So if I get something weird. What is corporate fascism? The concept of fascist form of government began in the early 20th century. Corporatism. Americans have been taught that effects of fascism is fascism. They are not taught to understand the structure of the corporatist fascist form of government, also known as corporate fascism. The concept of fascism is dependent on the merger of corporations with the state. There it is. The merger of corporations with the state. That is fascism. So what we're seeing here, what they're planning is fascism, the merger between corporation and state. Number 6. International organizations should prioritize reducing economic impacts for epidemics and pandemics. Okay, whatever. Let's skip that one. Governments and private sector should assign a greater priority to developing methods to combat mis- and disinformation prior to the next pandemic response. Wow. Government will need to partner with traditional and social media companies to research and develop nimble approaches to counter misinformation. That's censorship right there. Censorship and propaganda. This will require developing the ability to flood media with fast, accurate, and consistent information. Yeah, sure. Public health authorities should work with private employers and trusted community leaders, such as faith leaders, to promulgate factual information the employees and citizens. Trusted, influential private sector employees should create whatever. That is wild. That is why I didn't read that one before. Government and the private sector should assign a greater priority to developing methods to combat mis- and disinformation prior to the next pandemic. Do you think the government, if they had that ability, do you think the government would stop? That they would stop with the control over mis- and disinformation? Imagine if they had that ability right now. They kind of do already, because the media is they are pathetic. They are shills for the left. I don't know if it's blurry. I'm sorry if the camera's blurry. Audio listeners don't have to deal with that. But are you blurry? You're not blurry right there. You're blurry there. I guess you're not blurry there. Whatever. If it's blurry, I'm sorry. Too bad. But I think that's wild. I think that is wild. For example, immigration right now. The media has been hush-hush about illegal immigrants flooding. There was this article about illegal immigrants crossing the border and then being sent, the U.S. government sending them over to sending migrants over to Tennessee at night. That is wild. You can't tell me that's wild. If they had control over that. For example, Alex Jones, okay? I don't agree with everything that Alex Jones says, but he should have a right to be able to speak what he wants to speak. Another journalist. Look at Julian Assange. He released all that WikiLeaks info. The dude has been arrested and is in UK prison, and the dude is basically being tortured to death. He's in solitary confinement 23 hours a day. 23, and he's sedated most of the time. He's given up on personal hygiene. The dude literally smears his feces on the wall. He doesn't care anymore. The dude doesn't care anymore because he knows he's going to die in there. And he's one of the real journalists that we have nowadays. He's a true patriot, exposing all of the corruption in the world, and look how we're treating him. So you think giving the government the ability to control information and that's just how can anybody support that? You see what the government does. The government doesn't want the best for you. The government sucks. The government creates pretty much all the problems that we live with. Not every problem, because the problem is sin nature, but they create social problems. Social and economic problems are mostly done by the government. Look at the coronavirus, the lockdowns. Were the lockdowns effective? Well, not really. Look at Texas. We've had 0 deaths in the last 2 weeks due to coronavirus. And look at New York. New York has still has super high cases, and they're still under lockdown. Clearly, and it's not vaccines, because this was happening before the complete ultimate rollout of vaccines. Masks. I mean, vaccines weren't as widely available as they are now. But before that, we still had low cases. We still had deaths, but we had low cases. So then the vaccine just came in and boosted it. I want to do an episode on the vaccine, but that'll be a different episode. I don't want to get into that right now because I don't want to get like instantly banned, you know? I want to at least be able to speak a little bit more, or enjoy this podcast. But just... Yeah, accomplishing the above goals will require collaboration among governments, international organizations, and global business. Global business, not small business. Not small business, global business. If these recommendations are robustly pursued, major progress can be made to diminish the potential impact and consequences of the pandemics. We can call on leaders. My whole issue is big government and big business. Will big government and big business accommodate for rural America, for example? Are you gonna lock down? I think I have a bug on my glasses. What the heck? Will it accommodate for rural America? We see that rural America was not hit too bad by coronavirus because there's not many people there. But if we allow this, they will have equal treatment as people who live, for example, in New York. People were locked down equally in these small rural states. And they had to do the same exact mandates, even though they weren't being hit nearly as much. And so that whole idea that the government and big business can control everything, that I don't agree with that. I'm not an anarchist by any means. I went through a phase where I was kind of going through anarchy. I just ordered a book by Michael Malice. He's an anarchist. It's called the official handbook for anarchism. It gets here today. I'm super excited about it. I'm just gonna read it, see if I agree. I agree that the government is evil, and the government does not want the best for its people. Because if it did, it wouldn't do the stupid stuff that it does. It wouldn't push the stupid agendas that it does. And all of the social problems don't require more government. That's a misconception. Social problems are caused by government, and economic problems are mostly caused by government. We've spent how many trillions of dollars on the war on poverty, and has that helped? No, that has not helped. We spent trillions, like $20 trillion on the war on poverty, and has that helped? No. We've spent all of this money on all of these other trillions of dollars on economic aid, assistance, stimulus checks. Yes, I think they could have helped in the beginning, but people misinterpret humanity. They misunderstand what humans are. Humans are evil creatures. We're greedy, and we want the best for ourselves and not for other people. So when you take this money, we're not gonna spend, if like the stimulus packages were to reinvest into the economy, into small businesses, so that they could be able to pay their people. But do you know what we did? We ordered stuff on Amazon for ourselves, and so we increased the ability for Amazon to grow in net worth. And we didn't go to coffee shops because everything was locked down. So the stimulus checks were pretty much useless because everything was locked down. So it's just counterproductive. So the government is very counterproductive. I think we need a way that the people can hold the government and private business accountable. I'm not sure how that would go out. I need to do some more thinking on that. But I think that's a solution, to have the people be able to call out the bull crap. And I know lots of people won't. I don't know how that would work out. I think that's a solution. I don't know how to make that solution happen. But I think it's an interesting thought. And so, yeah, this has been episode 3, part 1 of Event 201. I hope you enjoyed it. Next, I'll probably do Agenda 21, which is very similar. It's all about one world governance. It's all about one world government. A one world government that it controls everything, and then it's merged with big tech and big pharma and big business, and everything will take over. And then it's going to be the end of the world, because, that's what Revelation speaks about. It speaks about one world government. And so we know that when one world government happens, the only good thing that'll happen is that Jesus will come. If I have my timeline right. I probably have my timeline wrong. It depends if you believe in the rapture. Anyways, without moving along, without just going completely crazy, I want to thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed. And I'll catch you guys in part 2 of this whole series about global governance and the globalist agenda to take over the world. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys later.